Now, as you made this presentation, you were followed up by the medical officer of health.
Yes.
Who spun a very different story.
Yes, sir.
And was he asked questions at all? Or was
there was one question for him afterwards, yes. And he had a dentist with him also.
All right.
I think he was hired by the Simcoe Public Health Office.
So we have a dentist also included in this who spoke positively for fluoride?
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
He mentioned, and Carole, I sent you this stuff. Maybe you can comment on some of the little sheets that he had there. The research on water fluoridation.
I want to make one comment. For the last 3 years, I've been gathering evidence through petitions to the Auditor General of Canada, through Freedom of Information requests and letters. And what we have found, to our absolute shock and dismay, is that these fluoride products used in drinking water have never been regulated by any government agency in Canada. There are no toxicological tests required for these products to determine safety available to demonstrate their safety as required by the Safe Drinking Water Act. The Safe Drinking Water Act requires that we follow certain standards, and the standards require these toxicology studies. We also found, to our utter shock and dismay, that these fluoride products have never been approved or regulated by Health Canada, the very agency that is supposed to regulate all drugs, natural health products, mineral nutrients, whatever you want to call them. It is their regulatory duty to assess whether the toxicology studies are there, to assess whether the clinical trials have been done, and they have not. And I've also asked all of the government agencies involved if they accept responsibility for the safety of these products, and they've answered no. They all referred to the National Sanitation Foundation, which is a private consortium in the United States. The private consortium answers back and says that no, we're not responsible for regulating the safety of products used for dental disease. We have no responsibility in this regard. It's up to government agencies to do that. So the answer is that these products are untested, unapproved, unregulated medications.
Speechless. And we're talking a little bit about fluoridation in the water. And, well, I got to say that I'm completely shocked at what you've had to tell us today. Now, James, you were speaking before District Council in a bid to get them to re-examine the whole issue, whether or not fluoridation is a good thing or a bad thing. You've obviously presented some very interesting arguments, and if I were a district councillor, I would be certainly thinking twice about whether or not this is a good practice or not. You were followed up by a dentist and the medical officer of health arguing against your particular stance.
Yes.
And subsequent to that, I understand that you were charged by the medical officer of health with what?
With a breach of professional. The words escaping me here right now. He made a complaint to my college. I have a website. I had a website, and I have one, and I have various health issues on there. And I think once Dr. Gardner is his name, once he found out that I was making a presentation to the council, he applied to make a presentation also that same day. The day before this, I received a complaint of professional misconduct from my college, generated by Dr. Gardner, mentioning that I have various health issues listed on my website, and that was, in his opinion, a breach of my scope of practice. Whether that's what my college thinks about that, we're still to find out. I guess I'll leave that their interpretation till then. I nevertheless have never advocated that people do exactly as I say, that they look at the information and make their own decisions and ask a qualified medical practitioner for their input before they make any changes to their diet or their health routines. So what was the motivation of doing that for Dr. Gardner? We should leave that for our listeners. Possibly there is reticence in the public health policy circles for anyone to question their public health policies.
Well, so they're saying that you don't have the right to pose an opinion on what is a good health practice or not, no matter, like what your profession is. If you are in the medical business, that you don't have the right to speak your mind. Is that what that policy is all about?
I guess you could boil it down to that. There are various medical subspecialties. And would that mean that one medical subspecialist could not speak about some other medical subspecialty? I mean, I don't know where the line is drawn, Jeff, and I don't know where the freedom of speech issue enters into this, and I don't know what my college is going to decide. So to make it a judgment about what my college should do, I won't do that.
Okay. Now,
I'll leave that for the public opinion, which is the process, and we'll see what happens from that.
Well, and any idea what could happen? What could be the ramifications?
They could decide to send me for continuing education of some form. They could reprimand me somehow. It doesn't involve a personal complaint, so it's rung down on the ladder of severity as far as a college complaint goes. But beyond that, I can't say anything.
So you're obviously, in the eye business.
Yeah.
And
Jeff, I like to think we're all in the health business.
Right.
Any one of us that deal with patients coming in the door, I'd like to think we're all in the health business.
Right.
And that there are a little bit of there is leeway, and there's an interest on the part of the practitioner to improve the health of the patient as they come in your door.
Right. Well, that's all very interesting that they would feel that somebody who's expressing an opinion about health should be reprimanded for, I guess, not supporting their thoughts on whether this is a good thing or a bad thing.
In my defense, I'll only say that I was not offering an opinion. I have listed websites, and as far as I could tell, they were all very well referenced.
Okay. Now, what is your website for us? If anybody wanted to, take a look at it.
My one is drjamesbjork.com, and that has none of this information on it.
Okay.
I have a private website which is called jimbjork.com, and that has a lot of this stuff on it. And some of your listeners might not really agree with. But I present it hopefully to garner discussion.
Okay. Now, Carole, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What can the listeners do if they are interested in taking this fight against fluoridation to district council? How can they ensure that they get, their voice heard before district council as they are in the process of deciding whether or not fluoridation should be something that should continue in the general Muskoka area?
Well, they have to arm themselves with information. The public health have made policy decisions, as I've mentioned, in a vacuum of information. So the citizens themselves have to start reading the primary research, and this research is available at fluoridealert.org. There is absolutely no reason why a citizen cannot report research and document it and present it to council. There is no reason why doing so should be censored by anyone, including a medical officer of health. I personally have filed a complaint to the Ontario College of Physicians and Surgeons regarding false and misleading statements made by the medical officer and associate medical officer of health for London. And I'm looking at the presentation by Dr. Charles Gardner here. He has made numerous false and or misleading statements in this presentation. Now, as a medical doctor and as a medical officer of health with political authority, I find it very sad when these people are not held accountable for information that they present to the public. Now, everyone has the right to voice an opinion in Canada, but when you wear the mantle of authority as a medical officer of health, it is their duty to understand that ethically and legally it is wrong to give false and misleading information.
Okay. Well, that pretty well wraps up the show. I'm afraid we are out of time. Jim, thank you very much for coming in here and talking a little bit about this.
Good, thanks, Jeff. It's been great.
And Carole from Waterloo over the phone, thank you very much for joining in today. I think that you have really opened up my eyes, and hopefully our listeners are probably in shock as much as I am, and probably will have some serious things to say to their district councillors when they are next seeing them. I know that I happen to have a district councillor that sits across the table from us here at Hunters Bay Radio, and I will be speaking to him about this. And maybe he can tell us a little bit about what he thinks about fluoride in the water. That would be interesting. Thanks very much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anyway, this has been another edition of Undercurrents here on Hunters Bay Radio. I hope